Well, traffic is always bad here. It's coming in here to Seattle.
Like the last year and a half or whatever, um, it's been great, and then it started picking up to pre-COVID, you know?
I see everyone's been boarding up here in Seattle.
Yeah, you see that? They did it even after the children's trial verdict. Like, not people celebrating, not people protesting.
It's different when you're being killed by the people who are supposed to be protecting you.
All right, come on in, take your seats. Okay, so you had a chance, I think, to review the stuff in terms of the plea agreement, but I'm going to go through it with you as well, and I can give you a copy too. Does that work?
Yeah, do you have any scissors?
Yes.
Can I borrow them, please?
Yeah, let me print out your plea form because that did not print for whatever reason.
But this building is closed now, too?
What, our building?
Yeah, usually there's a squadron of police down there.
Oh, no, we're not closed, but alright, this didn't print. So okay, I'll be right back. Right. You done pasting?
No.
Alright, so the state's not amending the charge because you're pleading this charge the DUI. And the elude is going away altogether, but I'm going to drop it, which is great. I don't know if she forgot what she offered, but we'll take it.
So you're saying I have to take the DOI regardless?
I mean, that's the offer, yeah. I mean, we could take it to trial, but then we face the elude too. And then it's a refusal, right? And then,
The only thing I'm really concerned with
yeah.
is the breathalyzer. I asked the officer to see the warrant, and he never showed it to me. And that's why I struggled the entire time. And you said it doesn't matter because I refused.
So because they don't have to get a warrant if they don't want to.
Then what's the point in getting a warrant if you don't need one?
If you consent.
I never consented.
Then they have to get the warrant.
Well, then, well, wait a minute, hold on. He didn't even ask me if I needed to take a breathalyzer at all.
Okay, they're saying that you did, that they offered it
That
to
may
you.
be, but on the record, they said that I sped up. Nothing showed that I sped up. He also said that I tailgated somebody. I never tailgated anybody, and the video doesn't show that either. There's two lies on his face right there.
The
And then,
problem is that the officer, I think we talked about this before, but the officer will testify that he doesn't turn on his recorder until they make a stop. Like when they're just driving around and they don't have any investigation, they don't turn on the recorder. They only turn on the recorder once they are pursuing someone. So what he's going to testify to is that the alleged behavior and the like tailgate whatever happened before he turned the recorder on. So then it's your word against his.
well, then that still comes back to what? The last minute being played, being recorded, now comes into
We don't have the minute where that happened, right?
so what is the prosecutor offering?
Dismiss the elude. So this is the DUI refusal submit to a breath test. So he's claiming he put in your information that you were in handcuffs and that's why you didn't sign, and that he advised you and read through the warnings for refusal. That's what he's going to claim. And that's what
Isn't
he's
there a
signing.
video? Isn't in jail? Isn't there a video of all this as well?
Not necessarily, no.
Did you even look into it and see if there was?
No.
So, according to the law and how the law is written up, he never asked me to take a blood test, but apparently, according to you, he did. He'll also say that I refused to take a breathalyzer or a blood test. Yet he got a warrant anyway.
That's common. It's common practice when there's someone who refuses the test, or if they suspect drugs, to get a warrant.
All right, then we're not. We don't have a right to see the warrant.
They might have included it. I can't remember.
Included what?
The warrant.
No, that may have been.
Yeah, here it is.
But I remember asking the officer, "Hey, man, let me see the warrant."
So not necessarily. Like they don't. It's not a right you're entitled to. It would have been nice if he had, but it's not like there's any remedy for not giving you the warrant.
You don't. No one actually believes that if someone asks to see the warrant, then that just might make the next step a lot easier for all parties involved. No one thinks like that.
It totally might, but it's not a legal remedy. Like I can't. It doesn't get us anything to claim that.
Because I've never refused a blood test. I've always asked to see a warrant, and I've always been shown a warrant. And then once the warrant is gone through, I see that the warrant is valid. I've always complied with officers.
I mean, this is regarding your case. I'm not working on anything else.
Oh, I'm not worried about that.
So we can bring that up at sentencing. You can refuse the offer when you take it to trial. I think the bigger risk at trial is the elude. And then if you were to lose on the DUI, so the worst case scenario for you is substantial because you're looking at a 1 year license suspension for the elude. Then you're looking at 2-year license suspension on the DUI. Then
Those
you
run
got,
concurrent or consecutive?
I think, consecutive. And then with 4 points on an elude, you're looking at a decent chunk of time. Like,
4 points?
yeah. So it's risky, right?
Life is a risk. More so for us than most others.
Actually, you might be more than 4 points because you got 3. Because your DUI would count as a point towards your elude. So that would be 4 points. 5. So you actually need 5. Now, your reckless driving from 2011, was that a reduction from a DUI, or was that just like a speeding thing?
No, I wasn't even drunk.
Oh, no, yeah, so the reckless wasn't even charged DUI.
No, I didn't find out till after the court was done when a friend of mine who went to school for law, she told me, King, there's no reason why you should have never, this should never been brought up or charged against you because the legal limit for a DUI is up to .08. You weren't even at .05. So her words, they fucked you just to give you this charge. They should have gave you this charge to begin with, and then dropped it down on a.
Are you talking about this one or the previous one?
No, not this one. The previous one.
So that it started as a DUI.
Well, legally, they had no merit to do so, but
That's what they did.
That's what they did. What was my alcohol content this time?
Your BAC,
Yes.
0.08 something, like, so it was like just above the legal limit.
So they're dropping the attempted to elude.
And they're dropping the DUI from a refusal to a no test.
All right. And so what are they actually charging me with?
DUI no test. That would be it.
I don't mind taking a deal. It just irks me that all these lies, these 3 lies that the officers will tell and have told, and that the court will more likely believe them over me. And the sad part about it is, when I went into the jail, somebody told me flat out, looked directly at me and said, that officer that brought you in is an asshole. Yet that really doesn't matter anyway, because he's an officer, he's allowed to do what he wants to do.
Well, does that give us a defense for the fact that he's an asshole? Right? Like,
no, it doesn't give it a defense from a legal point of view. It does raise a point to character, but no one really cares about an officer's character now these days anyway.
well, they're starting to, right?
They just did this, 400 years ago, we wouldn't have had this problem. Now all of a sudden people want to pay attention when stuff gets burnt down and broken into. Insurance companies don't like that at all. Yeah, that's my only issue. I don't mind pleading to what they're charging me with. I just don't like the fact that these officers lied flat out just to pull me over. Because I remember exactly what happened that night.
I think the most frustrating thing about your case is that you were what, just slightly above the legal limit, and the driving wasn't egregious, but at the same time, the elude is easy for them to prove.
I'm not worried about all that. I understand what you're saying. I see everything from a legal point of view, but not from their point of view. Because when I came out of McDonald's, I turned my light on, grabbed me some fries, continued to pull out of the McDonald's, hung a right to go back up to a friend's house, and then yes, I did speed. I got up to speed, which I think at that point was 30. It's 30 miles along that aisle, from what I remember. So I sped up to get to speed. Who doesn't? And then at that point, I noticed a cop sitting back in the back with no lights on or anything. I just happened to, because where we were sitting, Safeway had, well, whatever the case is, you're not supposed to hide. That's not the point. You're supposed to be sitting out and visibly and in the open.
They can't, there's nothing preventing them from hiding. They do this all the time, like to get speeding tickets, you know.
Well, no, I understand what the police do and why they do it. It doesn't make any sense because now they're doing a catch-22. In any case, I know what I did that night, and then I made a left to go back up to through the back streets because one, no one travels that road, so I don't have to deal with Rainier Avenue. From what I was told, Rainier Avenue is the worst part of it to be on because people like to speed up and down that way. So I went through the back road to go back up to the set of apartments to get some sleep before heading home, and he pulled me over. Mm-hmm. Now, I can't fathom for the life of me, why the hell is this person pulling me over? And then when I go to stop, an automatic reaction, that officer made it sound like I stopped to injure him.
Oh, because he was talking about that shoulder dislocation thing?
Yeah, that doesn't make no fucking sense. Other than him just to make the report look bad.
Well, I mean, that doesn't matter. I mean, like, you can't be held responsible for that.
The whole point is not being held. I know I can't be held responsible for pulling over the first time. What bothers me is the fact that you guys have people on the force that say shit like that to try to make the case look worse than what it really is. And they're allowed to do so. Because first impressions, they do count.
Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to go? Do you want to accept the offer? Do you want to go over this stuff?
No, I'll take the offer.
Okay, well then why don't we start going over it? This is the information. The elude's going to go away, so we don't care about that. The DUI, the elements for that is that you drove a motor vehicle under the influence or affected by liquor, and or that you were under the influence of combining drugs and alcohol. Any questions about the elements?
Give me a second. Let me see this first one you just written down. Drove a vehicle within the state while under the influence of or affected by what is drinking and driving? Is that what's the actual charge for something like that?
What's the charge for drinking and driving? It depends. It only matters if you're above the legal limit or if you're driving what's impacted. So if you're driving perfectly fine and your BAC was 0.005, that's not a crime, right?
Well, no. It's not a crime unless you get caught. I understand what you're saying. What I'm asking is, who wrote this up? You or the prosecutor?
Prosecutor. This is the information, the charging document.
Daniel.
I don't charge crimes, right? I defend, so I don't write this up. Okay, so Do you understand the elements though?
I understand what he's saying, yes.
Okay. So that's what you would be pleading to, is just count 2 DUI.
Mm-hmm.
Your criminal history is going to get attached. Okay, so this criminal history here.
Oh, let me see that real quick, the criminal history part. Can I borrow?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, this yellow one.
Yep.
Is this all of my criminal history? Micol?
Yeah, that's all yours. That's your criminal history.
What is the no valid OP?
No valid operating license. But operating permit, operating license.
Operating permit. Okay, I remember that one. I had my daughter that time. You know, I remember getting charged for the improper use of a reflector on a bike. And they actually charged me for it. And it's not on here. And if I remember correctly, that was in Franklin County. Look at that. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, over 5 years. Well over 5. Hmm. I wonder why that is. Do you know why something wouldn't be on my criminal record yet I know that it's something I was charged with and convicted of?
Okay. I mean, is it significant? Is it a misdemeanor?
Yeah.
What kind of charge?
They charged me for riding my bike when I was 10 years old, and I didn't have a reflector on it. They actually charged me for that.
Like a crime?
An actual crime. They charged me for taking a broken lawnmower that was obviously broke down and being thrown away from an alley by a memorial park, and I was 11 years old. They charged me for theft for that.
Maybe it got sealed. That's some bullshit.
I don't know if they wouldn't seal something unless they wanted to hide something. So it's amazing. I don't see those two on here. Everything on here is, what is this for? I'll find it.
Okay. So, any issues with this or questions about criminal history?
Other than those two charges, though.
I mean, we don't really want that part of your criminal history anyway. Okay, so this is the felony plea agreement. And the DUI attachment, I'll let you review. I sent you one, and also it was attached and basically it's in your emails more than once, but and I'll give you a hard copy here. But this is the plea agreement that we are agreeing to with the state.
Daniel's a real fucking asshole, man.
Who? Daniel.
This prosecutor.
Oh, Satterberg's just he doesn't actually.
Who wrote this up?
So Daniel Satterberg is appointed, elected prosecutor in King County.
No, I understand that.
And so if you turn the page, see the person who signed it?
Dara
Hinton.
That black lady?
She's a black lady.
She wrote this up?
Yeah.
That bitch. That is fucked up. Knowing the position that the prosecutor holds and what it truly stands for from a legal point of view.
She is one of the better ones.
Better my ass. If she'd have saw the damn video, she'd have seen that driving, I was never influenced by the alcohol or affected by it other than me running and keeping in mind that these motherfuckers was killing us. She took the word of these officers that I sped up.
There was the whole, basically hitting the stone that was in that neighbor's yard. And
that had, and I understand that part. I totally agree. But at the speeds that I was going, and it being wet and rainy outside, in that vehicle, no vehicle would have been able to make that at all. That had nothing to do with me drinking and driving. That was because of the speed I was going.
Right.
Even if I wasn't drinking, I'd still ran. So I still got the damn elude. What's getting me is I want to know why she thinks that the influence or affected by intoxicating liquor. That's what I'm.
Your breath alcohol, your blood alcohol was above 0.08. So they could charge it that way. I could ask them to amend it to read that you had a breath test or blood test above the legal limit. That's still illegal, right?
Yes.
But it sounds a little bit better if we don't go there. We just say that you're driving under the influence. We don't have to mention that you refused. We don't have to mention that there was like a test above the legal limit. We just said you were driving under the influence. That's why it's DUI, no test.
All right, I'll take the deal.
Okay, so I'm gonna go through the plea agreement and the plea form, which we haven't gone through yet, but is the longer ones of the two. But before I do that, I want you to be clear on so I wrote a statement of facts. They're gonna ask whether you adopt it as your own. This matches the elements of the crime, but also just you have to put it in your words. So on or about January 4th, 2020 in King County, Washington, I drove a motor vehicle while affected by intoxicating liquor, and my ability to drive was affected in an appreciable degree. And that meets the elements of the crime. Done. Don't mention the refusal. Don't mention above the legal limit. We just say affected by. But you'll have to indicate whether that's true and correct. If you want to go forward, you say it's true and correct. If you don't think it's true, then we can go to trial.
So I have to agree to that wording. We can't word it in any other way.
We have to match the elements. And what is driving under the influence? It's driving a motor vehicle while under the influence. If you want under the influence instead of affected by, you can put under the influence. Usually I think affected by is a little bit better, but if you want to do under the influence, we can do that too.
It's the same thing. So that right there those wordings specifically is the only way that meets the element of what is this? Is it's a misdemeanor of what they're saying, which is
Driving under the influence.
so they're dropping the elude.
And it will be a DUI, no refusal.
No refusal. DUI, no refusal.
So it's we call it DUI no test because we're not saying what your blood test was. We're just saying that it's DUI.
I don't mind pleading guilty to the DUI. The only problem is I was not affected because of the alcohol while driving.
Do you want me to amend it and ask them to write the elements of that you were above the legal limit instead? Because that's illegal, right? It's illegal to drive with an alcohol concentration above 0.08 and you were above 0.08. So if that would make you feel more comfortable, I could do it that way.
Well, that just makes it sound worse.
That's why I prefer this one, but
But they both,
they're both crimes.
No, I understand that, but I would still have to. The prosecutor would still want me to sign something very similar to that, saying that because I was drinking, I was affected, I was impaired.
So it's up to you. I can get the prosecutor. I can to amend the charges so that it's the blood alcohol concentration below 0.08.
It's already below
Or sorry, above 0.08. Within 2 hours after driving, an alcohol concentration of 0.08 or higher. Was it done within 2 hours?
Yeah, I believe it was. No, it might have been longer. It might have been longer because they put me in the cell, then they left, said something about getting a restraining order. And I was wondering why they're getting a restraining order.
I mean, a search warrant.
Or not a restraining order. A search warrant. And this whole time I'm thinking, why are they getting a search warrant? I'm going to jail. And then he comes back and says, King, we have a search warrant for your blood test. I said, can I see it? And he never showed me. And then that's when they took me to the hospital. It might have been, it was somewhere at 2 hours, yes.
Okay. Do you want me to see if she'll amend the information to reflect your blood alcohol concentration was above 0.08?
No, because that would just make the charge worse. I don't have a problem with pleading guilty to the charge.
Yeah, but if you have a problem with admitting to this language, then I can see if she'll do 0.08 instead. And then we don't have to say that you were affected by, we can just say that your blood alcohol concentration was above 0.08.
What does that do for the sentencing?
Nothing.
They're not sentencing anybody, are they?
Yeah,
They're sentencing, but they're releasing people
no.
because of the COVID thing.
No, not necessarily.
Oh, not for
I
anything.
just got a client who they made him do fucking 5 days.
For what?
And it was like COVID shit.
For what?
For fucking theft. Bullshit. They made him go in for 5. He already done 11 days, and they made him do 5 more days, even with COVID in the jail.
People don't care. I mean, if they don't lock people up, they're not going to make any money. Everybody counts. I think it's still $1,900 a day.
So, what do you want to do? Do you want me to see if we can do 0.08? Do you want to Does that sound true and accurate? Like, even if it affects your judgment and your driving in any way, like going speeding because of the alcohol as opposed.
Well, that's just it. I wasn't speeding at all.
But I thought you said you were speeding when it was raining, and then that's how you hit the rock.
Of course, I sped to get away from the police. I mean, I'm sure you would speed getting away from someone who you believe is truly going to kill you. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of a catch-22,
It
right?
is. It is a catch-22. You're right about that. I'll take that on its face. I'll take that on its face.
Okay. All right, so let's go through this plea agreement now. All right, so they're going to dismiss count 1 upon your plea to count 2. We're agreeing to the state summary of what happened, but we get to write. We're not writing in anything about the allude in our statement of facts. Sentence may not be more than 1 year, and your probation cannot be more than 5 years because it's a DUI. Sentence of 364 days of jail, and it's suspended for 60 months, so for 5 years. You have to serve 1 day of jail on count 2, but you'll get credit for the time you served. And I believe you did more than a day anyway, right?
Could have did less time, but decided to sit it out for a little bit.
Okay. So unsupervised probation for 5 years. That means you don't have to check in with a probation officer or anything like that.
I have a question for you. Why the 60 months? What is that all about?
So any DUI, they take 5 years probation.
All of them.
Just about, yeah.
Right.
They have the discretion to go as low as 2 years, but judges and prosecutors always 5 years.
Keep the money in the pocket as long as possible.
But the good news, you don't have supervised probation. You don't have to.
Oh, even if they did, I wouldn't care anyway because.
Well, you have to pay for it. You have to check in with someone. No, you don't want probation. So this is unsupervised, meaning the court is monitoring you, but there's no probation officer you got to check in with.
How's the court monitor me other than if I get in trouble?
Because you're in superior court, yeah, they don't give a shit. If you were in district court, they would check.
Wait, this is a superior matter?
Yeah, because you're charged with a felony. They'll lose. All right, so you're expected to have no criminal law violations. You're going to have to obtain an alcohol evaluation, substance abuse evaluation, and follow the recommended treatment. Okay?
What if I can't afford any of that? I don't mind doing it. Don't get me wrong. I know some AA. I know some AA places. I know some AA places that are free. I attend them from time to time, just because I have someone that I date may go to one. That's one. That's it. But other than that.
So what about Sound Mental Health? I would check with them, see if you can get a free. Contact Sound Mental Health and see if they'll give you a free one. I don't know what they're doing during COVID though.
All right.
You're going to be expected not to possess or consume any alcohol or controlled substances without a valid prescription.
Whoa. How long does that happen?
5 years.
For 5 years, I can't have a drink.
Well, let me explain to you something, King. No one's going to be coming knocking on
No,
your door.
I mean, I'm just surprised that there's even.
Yes. You'll have to attend a DUI victim impact panel. Just like you can again go to Sound Mental Health and see if they can offer a referral.
Victim panel.
Yeah,
Who's the victim in this case?
People who've been victimized by DUI are sitting on a panel and explain how DUI has affected them. Basically, it's to discourage you from drinking. Do not drive a motor vehicle after consuming alcohol or impairing drugs, which is kind of obvious. No moving violations. Don't drive a motor vehicle without a valid license and proof of insurance, and all other standard DUI conditions. $500 victim penalty assessment. You with me so far?
I'm wondering why they really dropped that allude. That's a felony.
Yeah. Okay.
And for someone with my background.
Okay, let's keep going here because I'm going to have to cut our meeting short at some point here. So let's just make some progress. Here's something that's important for you to understand, okay? Any attempt to withdraw your guilty plea, appeal the sentence, or your conviction is considered a violation of this plea agreement, okay?
When did they start adding that into plea agreements?
I think it was like, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago.
Why?
because they were dealing with so many appeals and convictions that their list started getting pissed off, and so they're like, now we're gonna file. They're gonna basically say our agreement's off the table if you try and make us litigate.
Well, hold on. Even from a legal point of view, if they do
Yeah.
something wrong,
Yeah, we tried to contest it and it didn't work. So they're indicating if you violate this plea agreement, the state can recommend a more severe sentence, file additional greater charges, or refile charges that were dismissed, and you're waiving your objection to the filing of those additional charges based on pre-charge delay, statute of limitation, mandatory during or double jeopardy. What this essentially means is, let me explain it to you verbally first, King. If you withdraw your guilty plea, you're like, you enter your guilty plea, you're like, yeah, never mind, I changed my mind, I don't want to do this. Or you appeal your conviction, or you appeal your sentence. They can come back and be like, all right, that's a violation of the plea agreement. The loot comes back on the table. DUI refusal comes back on the table. We're asking for more time. You're going to have to go to prison, and we can't contest it. We're waiving our objection to it. Do you understand that?
that doesn't make any sense. If hot damn, the American government is really fucked up. Who allows stuff like this?
The prosecutor changed their forms, and we tried to change it back, and they wouldn't.
Who's they?
They, the prosecutor's office.
So you're saying the prosecutor has a say-so regardless on any contract like this, and no one else can say or do anything about it?
We can always say no, but then we don't get a plea agreement, right? So it kind of binds our hands.
So because we have to accept this in order to get a plea agreement?
What's that?
We have to accept stuff like this in order to get a plea agreement? Why?
This only is an issue if you change your mind after you enter the guilty plea. You have to agree that you're not going to appeal, that you're not going to your conviction or your sentence, and that you're not going to change your mind and ask to withdraw your guilty plea. It only comes into play and it only becomes an issue if you're like, nah, I changed my mind, I don't want this deal.
No, I understand that part.
Because they have to litigate it.
I don't see me taking my plea back, but what I don't understand is how can anyone so if the state fucks up, there's no recourse for the so-called defendant to come back on. If the state comes through, charges somebody with something, then turn around, reduces those charges to a lesser charge to cover something up, and someone, say like me, finds out about it, we can't bring it back to the table because the state's going to want.
Sure, but listen, if we bring it to the if we found out that there was like some big Brady violation or exculpatory evidence that they didn't bring to you, and we tried to appeal and expose them for it, yes, is that a violation because we're changing you're changing your plea? Yes. But the state is going to think twice before trying to make it even fucking worse when we're sitting on a pot of gold.
Yeah. Give someone $100, they might not say nothing, but 2 or 3, they'll have a problem with it. I got a question for you. You know my criminal history.
Mm-hmm.
When can I get my right to have my gun back?
Well, now you gotta wait even longer once you get another conviction. You have to wait until a certain period of time has passed. So your criminal history,
Besides the last felony that happened in 2000, 2001, there was no felony outside of that. When would I have been able to get a firearm if I didn't have this on my record?
So I'm assuming it was for your felonies
Yeah.
that you got.
But the last one didn't happen until like 2001.
So I don't think you're eligible. You have to have 5 or more consecutive years in community without being convicted of a crime.
Of any crime.
So that means after this charge, you're gonna have to wait 5 years.
Man, I could have had me a gun back in 2000 something. Man, it's been over 5 years. I could have got me a gun, man.
Okay, so where's the other page? Where's the first page of that?
This right here.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it organized for you.
This is the one you gave me because it's the only one I grabbed.
Okay.
Page 202.
All right, so we'll sign this one in court at the time of plea.
Can I get a copy of all this as well?
This is your copy.
All right, good.
All right, so any questions about any issues with the plea agreement? Because now you got to go through this 14-page document.
No.
Okay, so true and correct name Orlando King, date of birth 7/8/1979, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what class grade you completed in school?
Man, that's a fucked up thing you just brought up. I completed the 11th grade.
And then got a GED or some shit, or?
I had no choice.
Yeah.
Some dumb bitch lied on me.
Okay, so okay. All right, so you have the right to an attorney. My name's here, Micol. We've discussed the elements of DUI no test. Any questions about it?
No.
Okay. So you understand what the state would have to prove for DUI no test at this point, since we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. By pleading guilty, you're giving up your right to a trial. That means you're giving up several important constitutional rights as a result. Okay. You're giving up your right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury in King County, right? No jury trial. You're giving up your right to remain silent before and during trial, as well as the right to refuse to testify against yourself. No one can force you to testify. No one can force you to remain silent either. But there won't be any testimony if there's no trial. So you're also giving up your right at trial to testify yourself and to hear and question witnesses who testify against you, so like cross-examining the officers. That won't happen because there's no trial. You understand that you're giving up your right at trial to have witnesses testify for you, knowing that they can be made to appear at no expense to you personally. So like we can call an expert witness, it wouldn't cost you anything, but you're giving up that right because we're entering a guilty plea. You're giving up your right to be presumed innocent until the charge is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. And finally, you're giving your right to appeal, giving up your right to appeal. They're very limited after you enter a guilty plea. Okay. Any questions about those rights?
No.
You understand that the maximum sentence of 364 days in jail and a $5,000 fine for the DUI, that's the maximum. That's not what's getting imposed, it's just the maximum. The crime of DUI no test has a mandatory minimum sentence of 24 hours of jail. There is no reduction of this sentence. There is a permissible 15 days of electronic home detention. That's an alternative, but there's no reduction. Okay. The sentence that we are agreeing to, 364 days of jail suspended for 60 months, serve 1 day of jail with credit for time already served, 60 months unsupervised probation, no criminal law violations, obtain an alcohol abuse evaluation and follow treatment recommendation, not possess or use alcohol or non-prescribed medications, attend a DUI victim impact panel, not drive a motor vehicle after consuming impairing drugs, and no moving violations. Not drive drive a motor vehicle without valid license and insurance, and a $500 victim penalty.
I didn't even know my my driver's license was suspended.
Did you call them?
Yeah, no, I can't get a hold of anybody. I've been sending them emails, but it's because of my the child support that I'm all
Right.
that I'm taking that I'm talking to somebody. Hey man, we need to go back to court and get this thing taken care of because I haven't even been able to see none of my children because the mothers won't allow me, and the courts won't do a damn thing. Probably because of my damn background. Well, it has nothing to do with messing with little kids.
Right. Yeah, I'm not a family defense attorney, so I can't help you there. The state is agreeing to dismiss count 1 with prejudice and not add or file any further charges arising from this incident. And this is an agreed recommendation. Okay? And I indicated here that the state is including the plea agreement we just went through. Now, the judge does not have to follow this recommendation. It does not have to give us what we've agreed to. The judge can impose up to the maximum of 364 days in jail if it chose to. Any questions about that?
No.
The judge can also place you on probation for up to 5 years. The judge will order you to pay the $500 victim compensation fund assessment. Even though there's no victim, it is required for a gross misdemeanor. So there's a $500 victim penalty assessment you will have to pay, right?
Why? Why is that
It's
mandatory?
required in superior court for any gross misdemeanor or felony. It's fucked up, I know. There's no victim in this case, but you're gonna have to pay. But I'm less worried about that. I'm more worried about your DUI. The judge may also order you to pay a fine, attorney's fees, and other cost fees and assessments authorized by law, and can order you to pay restitution to any victims. I'm not worried about restitution because this is not a crime involving restitution.
I hope not, because I didn't break that fence.
Okay, yeah, they're not. It's not checked on the box for plea agreement, so I'm not worried about it right now. If you're not a U.S. citizen, a plea of guilty to this offense may be grounds for deportation, exclusion from admission to the U.S., or denial of naturalization. But you're a U.S. citizen, right?
Of course I am.
Okay, so that doesn't apply to you. If you're convicted of any new crime before sentencing, the prosecutor's recommendation could increase. So if you commit any new crimes, or if they discover a new criminal history, then they could ask for a more severe sentence, and you would not be able to change your mind. Your guilty plea would be binding on.
For what?
So, like, if they found out you committed some murder in Alabama, that they didn't know about.
Yeah, me murdering somebody.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think this is going to come into play. This is only if they discover crimes that they didn't otherwise know about. Does that make sense? You with me, King?
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
And government assistance is suspended during any period of confinement. So if you do end up having to serve any more time, you're not going to be eligible for food stamps, Social Security, disability, or any other government benefits. Does that all make sense to you?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay. So there are going to be a bunch of paragraphs that do not apply to you. Okay, and I'm going to cross those out. Do you want me to wait?
Wait for what?
Are you?
No, I'm paying attention to you.
Okay.
Keep going.
So this will result in 90-day license suspension. Okay. You also, your ability to get a trucker's license, a commercial motor vehicle, will also be affected. So if you wanted to become a trucker, you may not be eligible for a period of time based off of this conviction. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And there are a bunch of paragraphs that don't apply here. You're going to initial in all these paragraphs with this box circle here. You looking?
Yes.
There are going to be a bunch of paragraphs that don't apply that you're just going to initial in, and you're initially mirrored to indicate these paragraphs do not apply to you.
All right.
Okay? Now, this is the DUI attachment. This is your penalties. Mandatory minimum sentence of 1 day of jail or 15 days of electronic home detention. There's a mandatory monetary penalty of $940.50, and there's usually a few other added costs. Your license will be suspended for 90 days. And then this paragraph doesn't apply. This paragraph doesn't apply. This paragraph doesn't apply. This paragraph doesn't apply. If you had a volunteer firefighter's vehicle license plate, you have to surrender it. I assume you don't have one. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And then these paragraphs don't apply. They'll ask you, how do you plead to the crime of driving under the influence? No test. Guilty or not guilty. Assuming you want to go forward, you say guilty. And then they'll ask to make sure you're entering the plea freely and voluntarily, that no one's made any threats of harm against you or anyone else to enter the plea, and that no one's made any promises of any kind to get you to enter the plea. Okay? Like no one's forcing you under duress to do this, except for the promises made by the prosecutor.
Except for the prosecutor.
Yeah. Okay, so assuming that this all makes sense to you and you want to go forward, I just need you to initial all the circles and sign this page here. Did any of that not make sense, or do you have any questions?
No, it made sense.
Okay, so just initial the circles.
So I won't be able to go fishing?
That doesn't apply.
Good to say, man, I want to fish. Wait a minute. I'm doing the boxes. Like all the boxes you want me to sign doesn't.
And you're indicating those do not apply.
Okay,
to you.
good.
Initial them. You're saying this does not apply to me.
Why did they? Wouldn't it just been easier just to initial the ones that do apply? Hmm. Hmm. Huh. You would think they would know about that. Why do you? Why do they say they're giving me this plea agreement?
I asked for it in my negotiation email explaining that your blood alcohol was low, that you're a black man being chased by the cops, that your driving was not terrible.
But if my driver wasn't terrible and they know that, how come they wrote it in such a way that says that my alcohol level was the reasoning behind my driving?
Because that's what they believe based on the officer's observations. So I just need your signature here.
That's what they believe, huh?
So I will go ahead and set us for plea and sentencing. Hopefully sentencing will happen the same day so we can save you a trip. Usually this prosecutor is pretty good about that, but I never know for sure because I need their approval to do that.
You know what? I shouldn't have called her a bitch. She's just doing her job within the restraints that the law allows her to do it. We all do.
So I assume you'd like to get this done sooner rather than later. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So I'm gonna see when as soon as I can set it for. Okay.
If you were a prosecutor and you seen the evidence on this, would you have written up that report that way?
You mean the infer charging document? Dude, I can't get in the mental state of these prosecutors. There's a reason I'm a public defender and not a prosecutor. I wouldn't file half the shit they file, you know? Like, I'm not a prosecutor.
When was the last time? This is 2021. Fucking 11. 2016. 2007-26 to 3-25 is almost 5 years. And that was 2016. It's well over 5 years.
Sorry, is there a question or just something?
No, no question.
Alright, well, you're free to go and I'll be in contact about a plea agreement, a plea hearing, once I email the prosecutor.
You probably want to.
Oh, do you want a copy of this too? I'll make you a copy of court, or I can just make one for you now.
Okay. You're more likely will want to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Instead of email.
Okay. Do you remember how to get down?
Yeah, I can find my way out.
Just go down a couple flights of stairs and then you're there.
Most tall people are.
So it's good to see you. And we'll be in contact, okay?
All right. That, my good people, was my lawyer.
we got a long ways to go to figure this out. So let's do it.